Welcome to our podcast. The environmental issue our group decided to research was the decline of the bee population, the effects of this decline, as well as the possible solutions. While this issue may seem minuscule at first, it is actually one of the most detrimental to our society, affecting not only the bees, but just about all other living organisms. According to the Earth Day Network, beekeepers mostly throughout the United States and Europe have reported annual hive losses of 30% or higher over the past 10 years. They have also found that 1 in 4 wild bee species is at risk of extinction in the U.S. A longer time scale shows that between 1947 and 2005, the number of honeybees declined from 5.9 million to 2.4 million, almost double the typical rate of a 15 to 20% in a healthy bee colony.
Why is the decline happening? Many people may be wondering why this decline is happening. However, there is not just one particular reason. A handful of issues can be attributed to their decline: pesticides, parasites, climate change, habitat loss, harsher winters, and industrial agriculture, to name a few. First, we'll start with pesticides. Pesticides have been used since the 1940s in order to protect crops from unwanted pests and weeds in order for them to thrive. However, many of the pesticides used are toxic to the bees. We know that bees pollinate flowers for us, which is an extremely important process in our lives. The pesticides also are destroying many of the bees' foraging habitats. This leads to a poor nutrition because the bees are unable to find the proper nutrients for their diets. Next, we learned in our environmental science class that global climate change has many negative effects on the environment, which in turn has negative effects on humans as well. How does global climate change affect the bees then? With the immense habitat loss we are receiving from the climate changes, bees fail to migrate to cooler areas to build hives, says the Human Nature Conservation International blog. Not only this, because temperatures are fluctuating abnormally, many of the plants that bees pollinate produce their pollen much earlier than the bees are able to pollinate them. Therefore, the bees become less resistant to predators and parasites due to their health. Some of these parasites can completely eradicate the colonies of many bees themselves.
Why this decline is important and how it affects us. The decline in bee population is incredibly important to us for many reasons. Bees help us produce most of the world's food supply with a very important ecosystem service: pollination. Pollination from bees is not just associated with flowers you see in gardens and meadows, but with most of our fruits, nuts, and vegetables. A staggering 70% of the top food crops we produce worldwide are due to the pollination of bees, which equates to roughly 1 in 3 bites of food we consume. Without bees and their pollination, the world would maybe survive a couple years at best before we would not be able to sustain our need for such mass quantities of food. Humans will not be the only ones affected by the severe decline of the bee population. Many animal diets are based on flowers and berries, so not only would humans be losing our food supply, but most other mammals around the world would as well. From an economic standpoint, according to the BBC, without those bees pollinating, we would lose roughly $30 billion a year in revenue from crops. Not only this, but if bees can no longer pollinate due to extinction or endangerment, we will struggle to sustain the global population of 7 billion people, because many plants will go extinct and many animals that those plants eat will also go extinct, and the cycle continues in a negative manner.
What solutions could we provide to try and prevent this? Scientists have been working for years to find solutions to the bee population problem. According to the International Business Times, they have found the spread of modern agriculture is one of the main causes for the decline in population. One way to solve this problem would be to stop eliminating American grasslands and wetlands in order to make room for croplands. This leaves the bees vulnerable to hunger and illness. Bees have a harder time fighting off other threats and diseases when they do not receive proper nutrition. Significant changes need to be made in the agricultural industry and how they use their land to be more eco-friendly. These grasslands or wetlands are rich in different types of flowers and other food sources for many different organisms. By eliminating the amount of grasslands and wetlands we destroy, the bees would have the resources to continue pollinating, and as a result, more organisms would be able to flourish. Another solution is a pesticide ban, which is currently being used in Europe. The European Union has voted to ban a certain class of pesticides called neonicotinoids, which have a wide range of negative side effects for bees. This type of pesticides reduce the bee's ability to properly navigate, making it harder to forage for nutrients. This pesticide also suppresses the bee's immune system, leaving the bee vulnerable to diseases and parasites. Finding a proper balance for pesticide bans can be a very effective solution. Lastly, another solution would have to be in ecological agricultural improvements. This would be in turn to improve the crops and their products due to the lack of harsh farming methods.
In conclusion, bees are extremely vital to our environment, economy, and overall well-being. Without bees, we would lose many of our crops, animals, and our health and lifespan would significantly decline. Bees are essential to life as we know it, so we need to make sure we keep them in mind with all of our agricultural and life decisions.